You're new to pool and practicing the basics, or a more experienced player performing drills to improve your shot making and positional play, the Drill Partner is perfect for you.
This is like 5 times this week, Melina.
Surely I
Four?
must. Surely I must be dreaming because
I
this
think you're
just never
dreaming.
happens. This never. Well, I'll tell you, if I'm dreaming and you're in it, we got a lot to talk about, buddy.
Oh man. Well, hey, there's just so much to talk about right now in the pool world. And so, I posted something today. Oh, she's back. Is it
I tell
bedtime?
her. I tell her like
Chengi.
right before
Is
too.
that
Yeah,
Chengi?
yeah. A monkey. A monkey. I love it.
So we're back. Uh, Something came up the other day, and I thought it was so interesting that I just needed to talk about it. And you and I have kind of teased it a little bit, but it was actually posted by a friend of mine from Maryland, guy that I used to play pool with in Maryland. He's a competitive pool player, but he's got a day job. Super nice guy, and always putting out great information. And so I said, well, you know what? Let's go and get him on the show, and let's talk about this viral. I mean, this is pretty much as close to a viral post as we get in our industry. Wouldn't you agree, Mike?
Yeah, I'd say so. It's always a hot button topic when you bring up the numbers game and Fargo rate, and so yeah, we're gonna bring him on and we're gonna jump on in.
Well, let's get him in here. It's Curtis Branker. Hey, Curtis, how's it going, buddy?
It's going great. Do I click on the link now?
No, well, that link was for you to share.
Oh, I see. Okay. Okay.
We're dogging it. We're dogging it already.
Okay. Well,
But you're on the perfect show for that, Curtis. So don't worry about it. No, I
all
put
right.
that link
Hello,
in there in case
everybody.
you
And
want
thanks
to share.
again to you guys for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, sure thing. So, I've been following you ever since I left Maryland, really. And it seems like the last couple years you've been heating up with the stuff that you've been posting online. And one of the things that I was kind of figuring out how to introduce you is just by saying that you're kind of an influencer in this industry that doesn't try to, right? You're not trying to get views, you're not trying to get likes. You just put your feelings down on paper or Facebook and you get it out there. And it seems that tons of people will comment on it and, create a good conversation. And this latest post that you did, I'm going to put it up for everybody to see it. So hang tight. Let me get it up in there. So here it is. It's the bottom of the post. It's hard to see, but this is the top 10 Fargo rated players by state. And with this, can't really see it, but 247 shares, 247 shares, 58 comments, and basically 109 people that like this. And I remember looking through this and reading this by state. Oh, we got somebody from Canada in here. He's upset. You didn't do the provinces, but I'm
So
looking through this
next
and I'm
week.
going to switch it now and show you kind of like the spreadsheet for this that I created. I basically pasted all the data that you put in there and put it into a spreadsheet because I wanted to do some stats on it. But as I'm looking through this, the thing that struck me that I thought was super cool was the fact that there were so many really good players in states that they had high Fargo rating, and I didn't really know them. And one of the things that we try to do with this show, with my other podcast, is we try to bring attention to some of these other players out there. What was your impetus for creating this list? I'll turn it off for now. We'll chat for a little bit, then we'll come back to it. Like, what made you're sitting there one day and you said, let me take 3 hours out of my day and compile a list of Fargo rate by state, alphabetized, sorted based on the highest Fargo rate. What happened? Where'd you come up with that?
Well, basically, what I used to do, I would post the top 10 in Maryland. And since I know everybody that's on the list in Maryland, I knew it would start a conversation for better or for worse. And like you said, when I share this information, I've even managed to amass my own group of haters. So I know I'm doing well. Um,
That
and,
means you've arrived, buddy.
and as as you know, with pool players, we have massive egos out there. So some people get offended. Some people send me private messages. How could you post this? How could you not post that? You forgot this person. You forgot that person, etc. And I thought, well, let me broaden my horizons a little bit, and let me throw in Virginia, PA, and Delaware. And after that, I'm like, you know what? How about the top 10 from every state? And I had no idea it was going to be shared that much. It just took on a life of its own, to be honest with you. I didn't even know that many people saw my feed, but because I don't have as many Facebook friends as some other people who are in the thousands. But then again, I'm pretty selective about who I accept. So yeah, that was the driving force. It was just let's just get a conversation started, and here we are. This is great because I think, like you, I was not aware there were so many great players out there that I had never heard of. Of course, I'm not going to know who the fifth best rated player is in Hawaii, but they're there. I mean, Wyoming surprised me. Vermont surprised me. I didn't know they had pool that much in these places, but I don't know what you attribute that to, but people are playing pool out there, and I think it's great.
How long did it take you to compile the list and share with people if they wanted to do something like this on their own? Because, like you said, you had a lot of critics who were like, "Oh, this person's dead. That happened. This guy haven't played in 20 years." If they wanted to curate, kind of customize the list, can you explain to them kind of the methodology for how you went about getting this list?
Well, it's pretty straightforward. So, like we had mentioned yesterday, the Fargo desktop site um, has features that the mobile app does not, and vice versa. So, the mobile app has a filter feature. So, all you do on the mobile app is you go, and of course, I'm a paid member of Fargo, but you go to the mobile app and
What does that mean? What is a
you
paid
can
member
you can subscribe annually. Um, to
and get
Fargo.
and
And I
get
think
what?
it gives you some more features that a non-paying member does.
Yeah, Molina's a
Not,
cheapskate. I doubt he's paid for it. But I think one of those features, Mike, is when I look someone up in Fargo, I can click on their name and it'll say matches played against them, and it'll show me my record against them, things like
yes.
that. It's worth the nominal fee that they charge. It's kind of
What is
cool.
it? How much is it?
So when you
I
when
don't
you
remember.
log on to Fargo Rate on the mobile app, all you really have to do is look for player, and then you can filter by state, city, and or country, and then you can put the rating range you want to look for. So if you want to see all the players in Arizona who are rated between 700 and 750, you can do that. So I just thought, let me just sort it by the highest rating first and just list the top 10 for each state. And I did that 50 times. And there you go.
Wow. So for Arizona, you couldn't go down to like 697 or 698. You had to start at 700.
No, well,
I'm really bitter about this.
for every state, I basically went up to 850 since nobody's at 850, so I would capture
Yeah.
everybody. Because Shane out there in South Dakota, he's going to be up there in the 830s. So
So one of the things that I thought when I saw the list, and Melina, I don't know if you felt the same way, but I said, there's always this kind of banter about what state has the best players. And, I was thinking about it and I was like, I bet we could do something with this list and kind of figure it out. Were you thinking that, Melina?
Well, pool players been known to bark a little bit, been known to get their chest a little big, and like Curtis mentioned before, as far as having an ego, I think when you put a numeric value next to it, it kind of it could definitely ruffle some feathers, I'd imagine.
Well, Melina, Mike, if you had to guess, if you take the average of the top 10 Fargo rate from each state, right? So you see these Fargo rates up here. If I just took those 10 and created an average of that for each state, what state do you think has the highest average Fargo rate?
I mean, look around. Well, I'm in Texas, ain't I? Right?
You are in
It,
Texas,
has got to be Texas.
and you would be
no,
wrong.
sorry,
Yeah.
no.
I'll
Okay.
give you
Well.
I'll give you three guesses.
Okay. Well, throw the list out then. I'm out.
No, come on, come with it.
Just like a
I think.
Texan, he wants us to see. You see how it is? You see?
Okay. So if it's not Texas, let's see. Where are they playing pretty sporty at? I'm gonna say somewhere.
We got some
Oh,
guesses in the Rick Glasscock saying California, John
California.
Steger's saying Florida.
Nah, those are too easy, too obvious. So obvious
You
isn't
think I'm
isn't
trying to
gonna
trick
be.
you?
Well, I think so. It's definitely not Arizona. I know that, buddy. Trust me. I know
Hey,
that. So
you shut your mouth. You shut your mouth when you're talking to me.
yeah, I might go with Louisiana. You know,
Mm,
You would be number 13 if you went with Louisiana. You got one more.
3 strikes and I'm out then, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna go with I'm gonna
Got
go
some
with
good
Ohio.
guesses in here. Wyoming?
Ohio.
Oh,
Ohio.
Okay, let's show you. I'm gonna bring it up right here. Number
Yeah,
one,
don't keep it in
Ohio,
suspense. Ohio, yeah.
Florida was
750.
number 2. Oh
Huh?
god.
Florida number 2, Texas number 3, California number 4. Arizona did not crack the top 10, which I was very disappointed. But to be one of those complainers for Curtis, I didn't see Jovan Bustamante on there. I don't know if you've since what, which by the way, Curtis has been updating this list. I had no idea. I took a static shot from like 3 days ago, and now he's been updating it every day as people message him.
That's pretty solid though.
Yeah. So Arizona's not in the top 10, but I was really surprised because when I think of, world class pool, I don't think of Ohio, and it's nothing against Ohio.
Wow.
It's a
Wow,
fine
Joey.
state. No, it's a fine state, but I really don't think of it as, all the world beaters. Like if I were traveling the country, I wouldn't say, "Oh, I'm in Ohio, I better watch out." But
Well, lesson
apparently I
learned.
better.
Lesson learned because I learned a long time ago. You never, ever, ever discount the Midwest.
Okay.
They have
Why?
some of the strongest shooters, and from what I've heard from so many different people, those guys gamble their heart outs and they don't back down and they put it up on the lights. So you want action, that's where you go.
So let's look at Ohio. I'm going to go over to the Ohio contingent and we'll see who we got there. So let's see. We know we got Billy, right? I think I saw Sean Putnam on there. That's maybe one that you might have caught some heat over because he doesn't really play a whole lot anymore.
No, just a little sarcastic comment in the comments where Sean, I didn't know you lived here or something to that effect. But
Okay.
and keep in
So
mind, as we all know, Fargo isn't the be all end all of representing who's the best, because you have a
right.
lot of people out there, especially some old schoolers who don't play and haven't played Fargo-rated tournaments that are still pretty much under the radar.
So when Alex Ollinger is your 10th highest Fargo in the state, you're doing something, right? And so you
Yes.
can look at those names on a list, and it's just some super strong names on that list.
And I will tell you that Chris Bartram said himself he hasn't picked up a cue in a couple of years. But
Chris Bartram is the
That
biggest
by
hustler
itself,
in the country.
that
right,
qualifies him as a pool player right there. So.
right. I've seen him gamble many, many, many times. The
Well,
last time
okay.
I saw him gamble, he played with Ronnie Alcano at Q Masters in Virginia. So that's the level.
Let's take a look at what was second, Florida.
Yeah.
Oh.
Take a look at Florida.
Wait, but Danny Smith ain't even playing no more, is he? And he's like 5 on that list.
Danny
Like
Smith recently finished really high in a big one pocket event.
Where?
I think it was one pocket at Derby or one
No.
pocket invitational or something like that. Aki Stats one pocket invitational.
Oh, they ain't had that since 2012.
2012.
Joey,
All
you
right,
can
so-
just do a control home to get to the top of the list if you want, but
Okay, so Florida benefits from Rodney Morris being there, although
somebody
Rodney, I
said that
think
he's not there anymore because
he
those
just moved
pros
to
move
Georgia.
around.
Yeah. But then when you look at that list, number 10 on that list is Stony Stone. He's one of those guys that not a lot of people outside of that region, outside of the Southeast, have really heard too much about Stony Stone. I've played the guy. That guy's tough. He's a real tough player. It's kind of interesting looking at that.
At what point of inactivity do you get retired from Fargo rate is what I want
That's a
to know.
great question.
That is a great question, and that will be a question for Fargo themselves. I'm not going to front like I'm some sort of representative for them. I just believe in the concept of having a standardized rating system, especially at an international level. So that's why I keep putting Fargo numbers
Well,
out there. I recognize the pitfalls, the pros and cons of Fargo, and the pros and cons of ratings and of handicap systems, spotting people. It's not a real representation of your game, et cetera, et cetera. But quite frankly, it's better than nothing.
Well,
So-
what we do around here is we go to the source, Curtis. So we're gonna get them on the show, and we're gonna ask them direct. So we're gonna start making a list of some stuff we want to ask them. But I love this because it really makes it really gets people excited and maybe a little offended depending on where you are on that list. Like if you're in, let's say, Arizona, for example,
You're number 11.
and you're Mr. Irrelevant. But I love it because it'll start getting. I would love to see something like state by state. Personally, I wouldn't want it to be, pros involved in that mix. I'd want to see more of like an amateur style.
Like challenge matches, like Moscone Cup style?
Yeah, and I know they do something like that, I think, between Michigan and Ohio, which
Yes.
explains why if Ohio's number 1 and where's Michigan ranked number 10? So,
yeah.
but I
And
would
then they
love
have
to see it expand.
Oregon and Washington. They have one, I believe. They also have Arizona and Nevada, which is this weekend.
Ain't nobody worried about Arizona versus Nevada.
Oh, shut up.
You know.
So let's go to the other side of
Just
this.
kidding.
Let's go to the other side of these stats. Okay. Who is the lowest rated Fargo State out of their top 10? Melina, what you got?
Oh, who's at the bottom of the barrel? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, who's the bottom?
Oof. Uh, Rhode Island. I don't know. I got no clue.
Rhode Island.
Yeah, I don't
They
know.
got some champions in Rhode Island.
Do they? Well, little did I
Hold on,
know.
let's see. Rhode Island
Keep on
is
cruising, son.
number
Oh,
38.
38. Well,
Rhode
okay.
Island, number 38. Let's
Wyoming,
see.
Delaware. You know what I'm curious of though is that how many of these are also, like what percentage of these are based off of playing on the bar table too? That's what I would want to know.
It's a good
Yeah.
question.
Well, not only that, but Fargorated encompasses multiple disciplines.
Of
So
course, yeah. I mean, I don't want to
Yeah,
come up
which
with a
we
dead
actually
horse, but-
argued about the other day because we found out that one pocket results were being included in Fargo rate, and we just didn't think that was right. Do you think that's right, Curtis?
that one pocket wasn't included.
It
It
is
is
included.
Yeah, I don't agree with that.
Yeah.
One pocket was designed for gambling, which means it was designed for hustling and game making. So, you know, as well as I do, that you can have 19 different speeds. You can, you know, play somebody on the stall for months and months, et cetera, et cetera. Much more so, in my opinion, than you can do playing rotation. So, to measure one pocket, I think there should be a separate rating system because of the uniqueness of that game. It's a gaff game, but, you know, there's so much skill involved in playing it that it gets the respect that I think it deserves. But to measure it, I'm not really thrilled about measuring one pocket.
I'm okay measuring it. I'm just not okay measuring it in with rotation,
Right.
just because it's such a different game. In fact, like I think that one pocket is the game of all games because
Mhm.
of the fact you need every skill to succeed in one pocket.
Well, one of the
Even
things you had asked me earlier in the podcast was that what are some of the other posts that I've made that
yeah,
have started a discussion, and one pocket was one of them because I don't know if you recall, but during the lockdown, the fillers were holed up with Roy's basement.
yes,
And Josh did some magic in Roy's basement, and I watched almost every single stream of stuff he would be doing playing the ghost. And then, if you remember, he played Tony Chohan in the basement and beat him. And I had made a post talking about how, with the way he shoots and the accuracy with which he shoots, along with Federer, they are changing the way one pocket is played. It's no longer make one stick, play safe, make two stick, play safe, which I called old man one pocket. Now, not to get too far into one pocket on the podcast, but you know, you have to change how you approach the table when those guys are your opponents. And that started a firestorm of commentary. Another post that I made that always starts a firestorm would be talking about tipping tournament directors on Calcuttas.
oh yeah, let's talk about that. Let's
Yeah,
talk about that.
that gets people worked up like there's nobody. It's nobody's business.
Well, there was a big there was some big controversy back in Maryland or the East Coast somewhere about it. I remember somebody pissed somebody off, but you know, I kind of look at things a little different. One, I look at it like if I'm making money in a tournament, I have no problem. Like this is not an occupation for me, so I have no problem peeling off, you know, a small percentage of that and giving it to a tournament director. And I don't know why people would have a problem with that.
Well, Joey, you've been playing long enough to know, and Mike, I apologize, I don't really know your background, but Joey, you've been playing long enough to know, or you're old enough to know, I should say,
Definitely
that
old enough
there
to
are
know.
those people, yeah, there are those people out there that want to know where every single nickel is going. But it also happens to be the same people who don't put anything back in the game.
Yeah.
They want to come to the tournament, they want the red carpet rolled out because they can draw their
Say it
ball.
louder. Say it louder.
Yeah, they can draw their ball 2 feet, you know, so they want the red carpet rolled out. They want the tournament to stand still until they show up. They want the very best of everything, but they won't put $5 to buy a sandwich in the
Right.
place where they're playing, and they want every single nickel of that tournament money to go to them.
Yeah. If
Those
the
are the guys
tournament
that complain the
director,
most.
if the
And I say
tournament
guys,
director,
but I never hear the ladies complain. So kudos to the ladies, but some of the guys just take it overboard, and you wonder if this is the only way they're going to see $1 that month with the way some of them behave. So,
yeah, you're right. Like the tournament director, if they take
Like who,
anything-
Curtis? Say some names.
Look, there's a lot of times where money gets cut out. Tournament director takes some. Maybe they take a little too much. But there's other times where they're in a pool room all weekend long, making sure you have a great event, and people bitch and complain because they took a couple $100 out of the pot. And I'm like, where are
Mhm.
you going to go and work a whole weekend for a couple $100, keeping 100 people happy?
Not
You
just
know,
100 people, but 100 pool players.
yeah, true.
That's a whole other animal.
Tough to please.
Now,
So
I will say that if a tournament director or directors are taking a piece of the Calcutta and it's advertised, I will not tip if I cash.
yes, let's talk about that,
Say
because
that
that
again.
is one thing. This is one thing that I do kind of disagree with, right? I have no problem with tournament directors taking money from greens fees or whatever, but I just don't know how I feel about Calcutta money. I kind of feel like they don't have a right to that money.
Well, there's a legality question to it too, which is a separate discussion. But I used to actually work for a local government, and I did ask the question, "Are Calcutta's illegal?" And they said somebody told me, and I didn't verify this. Trust but verify. I didn't verify this, but the claim is that if you announce or advertise that you're paying out 100% of the Calcutta, it's perfectly okay. Now, if you have a Calcutta for a bigger event, you have 128 players and you have 60 of them that are world beaters, right? And your Calcutta is $15,000, and you announce that you're taking 10% of the Calcutta off the top, you just made $1,500 for what? Fine, you made your 1,500, but now if I get second place and I get 7,000 in the Calcutta, am I supposed to peel off 500 and give it to you on top of that? Some might say you should, some would say no way. I'm in the camp where if you are taking money from the Calcutta, then I'm not going to tip you. And that's just my stance.
Yeah, I think the Calcutta rules vary pretty sharply by state. So there's certain states where I know they just won't do them. There's other states where they have to give a portion to charity. I'm not sure how much. Um,
Right.
and then there's other states where it's just the Wild West, and it's like they just start betting it up. It's crazy. Like when I went to what was it, Mike, the Texas Open, back when Mike is sitting there partnering with Nick De Leon, and
Mhm.
Nick's got a bid on who was it, Roberto Gomez, and Ray Hansen's like going once, going twice, and Molina was like standing on the other side of the room. He's like, 4,000 or whatever, went above Nick, and Nick's like, you just outbid me. It's crazy, and they were partnering on it. But seeing the kind of money,
We were sending messages, son. We didn't want them to know what our strategy was. We're putting
all right.
everybody on notice.
Well, how'd that work out for you?
We got first. So it
Well,
worked out pretty
actually, he
well.
did win the tournament. He did
Yeah,
win
we
the
got
tournament.
first. Yeah, so it worked out pretty well.
Yeah, but the point is, with the Calcuttas, there are a lot of different rules, and one of the things that happens a lot of times, which I think happened maybe not that year at the Texas Open, Mike, but maybe the following year, was the Calcutta money. The way it was divided, it was like you had people bidding on Dennis for like $6,000. He had to win the tournament to even get your money back, or something like that. You remember, Mike? Am I making this up, or did this
Well, when
happen?
That
Jake
happens all the
Law,
time, though.
Jake Lawson had his first Dynaspheres 10 ball, and he had it at Center Pocket in Bowie, Maryland.
Yeah.
And Shane Van Boning showed up, and one of his backers or supporters came with him to the tournament, and I think the guy paid like $8,900 for Shane.
Yeah.
So Shane won the tournament, surprise, surprise. But and it wasn't an easy tournament. You had players like Joey Korziak showing up,
Yeah.
so it wasn't a gimme, but it was still Shane. But
Yeah.
the tournament, Calcuttas can get way out of control. Well, I wouldn't say out of control. We all know about the crazy Calcuttas at White Diamonds in Louisiana, right?
Yeah.
I mean, those get in the tens of thousands, like $50,000, $60,000
100. They can be
Calcuttas.
100,000,
Yeah,
it's crazy. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Oh, by the way, just to address something that I saw in your chat there, somebody mentioned that Dominic Dunn is not in the top 10 for Florida. I just did a check, and his rating is 584. So,
Oh, they were kidding, Curtis.
oh, I don't know who he is. So
Dominic Dunn
they
played
got
that
me.
huge match with Andrew Cleary. I don't know if you remember, and they
Yes, I
marketed it.
remember Andrew Cleary. That name is very popular.
Yeah, they marketed that match as Florida to see who's Florida's best player, and I think they're both like 550 Fargos or something. And so they actually had people from other countries like commenting and saying, I thought this was to see who's Florida's best player. These guys suck, stuff like that. But it was hilarious.
Johnny Mills is burying his face in his hands right now.
So some of the other stuff that you post, one thing I want to talk to you about, which I think is interesting, because I'm an analytics guy. I used to be an analyst, and for me, tracking things is kind of important. Although with pool, I didn't really do it the way I wanted to. But then you came up with a system. I think it's a simple spreadsheet for just keeping track of your expenses, your earnings. At any time during the year, you could probably refer to it and say, hey, I'm doing pretty well this year. I'm up $400 or I'm down $600. Tell people about that. Where
Okay,
did that come from?
it was exactly as you said. I play in a lot of smaller events because I don't play well enough to really present any kind of threat at Turning Stone level tournaments or the U.S. Open or the U.S. International Open. I'm basically a regional above average weekend warrior. The one thing about me is I know my place in the pool world, and my Fargo is 612. So I should be under 650, but definitely over 600. But and I don't play pool enough to really do anything more than that. But I thought, I spend all this money and food is getting more and more expensive, et cetera, et cetera. Let me just see how I do. So I created a formula. I created a spreadsheet in Google Sheets, and I track the entry fee plus what I spend in the Calcutta, any side betting, miscellaneous expenses, and I sum that up and subtract it from prize money, and I have a column for my net income for that event, and then I have a running total off to the side where I can look and say, okay, for the year after 10 events, I'm down $250. So even though I won and lost money and I spent a bunch of money on food in Calcutta, I've only actually spent $25 per event on average. So that kind of keeps things in perspective for me. And one of the things I did as recently as 3 days ago is I made an instructional video, which no one knows about until now, where I'm actually showing people how to create that spreadsheet in Google Sheets from scratch. And I just have to edit it and clean it up, and I'm going to share it so people have, an idea. Because some people still get a little intimidated by the computer and about, especially when they hear the word formula, it throws people off, and it's like spreadsheet. I hate that computer stuff, and they don't say stuff. But I don't know if you know Brian Kilgore, of course.
Yeah.
Him and Liley, and they have BNL billiards tournaments. And Brian also loves spreadsheets, and he recently shared a similar spreadsheet on his BNL billiard tournaments page, so people can actually use the spreadsheet itself. But what I've done is show people how to create their own. Because I spoke to another pool player, a longtime pool player, as recently as last week, and then she even tracks her mileage.
Really?
So yeah, see, she tracks how far she drives to each event, and she works out the gas. I mean, it's like anything else. It's like any other kind of accounting. You track whatever you feel like tracking, and I think it's really helpful. And that video is going to be out within a week or so people would see how they can create their own sheet and track their own money if they are so inclined. So
I think that would be a great thing for players. We've been talking recently in the last couple of weeks, Mike and I, just about how expensive it is to travel to tournaments. Mike, I think you posted before this show the payouts from Turning Stone, and I just looked at them briefly, and it's like fourth place or bust. Fourth place or you're not getting your money back. I mean, it's like $2,100 for fourth place, and it just goes down from there. And I'm thinking about, 4 nights in a casino and whatever it costs you to get there and meals and all that stuff. And how many people in that field have a chance to get fourth place? 20?
And it can get expensive because, like, for example, I would go to Turning Stone just to watch. And that's pure expense because I'm not playing. Turning Stone is not cheap. And if the tournament's not in progress, all you have left is the casino, and you know what can happen in there. So you're looking at a $1,500 3 or 4 days at least on the low end. So yeah, the money can add up, especially if you jump on a plane. So,
I'm not going to tell the story again, but I robbed Turning Stone last time I was there. I made out like a bandit. It was actually a really fun blackjack story. I'll tell you off the air because I said it the other night.
Well, my game is Baccarat, so you're in good company.
Okay. You're talking about sharing this video. And so I have to point out that you're kind of in the same place as Molina Mike was when I met him. Molina Mike was putting out a ton of good information, all on his personal profile, had his 5,000 friends, would have to delete 100 of them and add 100 more or whatever, or just rely on people following him. And I slapped him around a little bit. And I said, Melina, you need a page. You need something where if you got 15,000 or 20,000 people, that want to follow you and want to see what you're doing, now you have a venue for that. You have an avenue for that. So curious,
Well,
what are your future?
hold on.
Oh,
Tell them
sorry.
the rest of that story. Tell them
What
how
was
it
it?
came. Tell them how it came to be,
Oh,
and how
crazy
you were
part.
scared, and
This
how
is
you were
how
scared of
this
your
is
own
how
shadow.
Melina rolls. Curtis, this is how Melina rolls. Okay. So I'm like, you need a page. And he's like, yeah, people have been telling me that. Dom's been getting on me about that. I guess I do need a page. And I'm like, well, just start thinking of some names and then come up with a page. Like 4 hours later, I get a message like, here you go, Windows open. It's out. He didn't even like get any feedback on a name. He didn't even want to talk about it. He just publishes the page. And before you know it, what are you up to now, Mike? 17,000 or
Yes,
15,000
something
followers?
like that.
Yeah. So what are
Well,
your plans, Curtis?
I've done three different things on my own. The first thing I did was I created my own Facebook group called All Things Pool, where I thought I was going to have everything focused on that group. But the participation was so spotty and, dare I say, idiotic that I killed it.
Hey,
Those who
listen,
know me know,
I clean it up all the time, Curtis. Trust me. If it
well,
starts looking like the
those
AZ
who know
Bears
me know
forums, you get the boot, son.
right. And those who know me know I'm not a very patient man. The other thing I did was I created another group called Pool Room Reviews because I know we have Yelp and I know we have Google reviews, but I thought having a page with pool room reviews where people can just go and be open and honest about a venue for complaining or praising everything from the food to the equipment to the bathroom conditions would be helpful. But then what ended up happening was some people felt awkward about posting honest reviews and then going back to the pool room the next day and having the owner give them the side eye. So that didn't take off very well. So I killed that. And then the most recent thing I did was I thought I would share my Google Calendar where I would post all the events for my region on my Google Calendar and
Yeah.
share the calendar with whoever wanted to look at it. And each entry on the calendar had a link directly to the Facebook page for that event. So they can say, oh, for Saturday the 14th, there are 4 events. Which one do I want to go to? And it was
Yeah.
another indication of trying to open people's eyes to how saturated we are with events in the DMV to where there are so many events that we are actually bickering with each other now. And there's tournament director feuding and jealousy and acrimony because we just have so many choices. And for example, this weekend, the Maryland State Scotch doubles event is going to be at Brews and Q's on the Boulevard in Glen Burnie, Maryland. And that's an On the Hill Productions event. And there are 64 teams signed up with another 10 teams on the waiting list. So you already have over 130 something players that are going to show up at Brews and Q's. And then on Sunday, Brian Kilgore and Lai Lee for BNL Billiards tournaments is going to have the first of their 10 ball mini series event at Bankshot in Laurel, Maryland, only 20 minutes away. And that field is capped at 32 and it's filled with a waiting list. So we have pool coming out the ears out here.
That Maryland Scotch doubles tournament, who took third place in that in 2020? Do you remember?
No, I don't.
It was me and my brother.
It must have been you. Yeah.
Just had to
Yeah.
get that in there.
Right.
No, I
This
went
one
back
is
to visit my brother and
this
we
one
went
is
played in
Fargo
that.
capped at 1200. So
That's the
we're
last time
asking
I saw
strong
you,
teams in.
Curtis.
What's
That was
that?
that's the last time I saw you at Brews and Q's when I was there
Yes, it
playing with
is.
my brother.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
No, but so you got your hand on the pulse of the pool scene in the Mid-Atlantic region. Tell us, let folks know, because it sounds like there's a plethora of options out there. And so we might have people in this podcast that are in West Virginia or New York or North Carolina, and they might want to come up. Give us kind of like the bird's eye view of the different entities that are running events. You talked about BNL. Who are some of the other ones, and what kind of
Well,
stuff?
what they can do and what I would recommend is they go to my timeline. You don't have to friend request me if you don't want to. It won't hurt my feelings. But if you go to my timeline, my pinned post has a list of all of the Facebook groups you should check for tournaments in the DMV, PA, and WV that people wouldn't mind driving an extra 2 hours to get to. So we have On the Hill Productions, which was founded by Rick Scarlato Jr. and Lloyd Bolliard. Rick Scarlato has since opted out, but he's the general manager at Brews and Q's, so he's very heavily involved and entrenched in everything there. and he runs Great Calcuttas. You have Brian Kilgore and Lai Lee, who do B and L billiards tournaments. They have their own page. And you have Joe Norton Tournaments. He is the king of handicapped events, and he usually schedules out events for the whole year. So he probably has events scheduled almost every weekend through October of 2023. And he is the king of team tournament events too, and his events are packed. His Calcuttas are huge. You have Danny Bell. He's on Facebook as Lee Bell, and he owns Chop Tank Bowling and Billiards with his family. You have
Oh, by the way, let me stop you real quick.
no, you're fine.
One of the entities that sponsored us when we went out to Moscone, Mike Digital Pool.
Yeah.
I just saw a post about Chop Tank Billiards where they basically sent some equipment or something. So they're going to have live scoring on every table and streaming and all this stuff. I think it's probably like a new endeavor that they're doing, probably Isaac and Danny Bell out there, where they're going to have a tablet on each table. And so when two players are playing, they can update the score on the tablet and it sends it right to Digital Pool, right to their brackets. I'm really excited to see what comes out of that.
Well, you don't even have to use a tablet really anymore, because with Digital Pool, you can pull it up on your
On
phone.
your phone. Yep. That's how we did it at
And you can
BEF.
keep score during the
could've.
match on your phone.
All right. But they're
Yeah.
going to have tablets.
Yeah. So the other
And I
thing
think
is you have
I think the point of the tablets are for people who are in the venue to be able to see live scoring, as it's going on.
Right.
Because how many times have you like tried to see the quarters and let me look over there and see what the score is, and so you'll be able to see the score.
So some of the others in Maryland, you have B&R Productions. That's Bruce Carter, Carder, and Richard France.
Yeah.
They run tournaments out of a place in Finksburg, Maryland, called Bellissimo's Ristorante. And they also started a challenge match series because they are supporters of Salado. So they put together challenge matches and they stream them. They have a great stream as well. I don't know what happened.
Real quick,
Yeah.
Richie's in the chat there. He's giving my brother a shout out. That place, Finksburg, is like 10 minutes from where my parents live. So
Oh, nice.
yeah, I've played there before. It's
Yeah, it's
kind
a
of
really nice room. It's a friendly place. It's comfortable. It's clean, good food. All the things you want if you're going to spend 12 hours in a place. And
Can
then
I?
you have a ton of other groups in Maryland and DMV. I mean, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Brian Reville. I could mention Kevin R. Williams from the Black Cat Pool
Black
Tour,
Cat,
which he
yep.
founded by himself. He hasn't done anything in over 8 months, but that could be for personal reasons. Sometimes, as you know, running tournaments tends to wear on you.
Yeah.
And then we have league pool coming out of the ears. There's action if you want it. I mean, there are tons of good players out here that like to step up and bet it up a little bit. So, I mean, I can play pool every night in a different place. I live within 50 miles of about 30 pool rooms that I'm willing to go to, which means there are actually more.
Curtis, do you know how First Break and the Bob Stocks Memorial got added to the Matchroom calendar? Did you hear anything
I'm
about
glad you mentioned that, because Mr. Christopher Wilburn, aka Flash, does a lot of work behind the scenes, and he should be commended for everything he does. He almost always flies solo, does a little extra, well, does a lot extra actually, and he was able to get Matchroom to sanction the Bob Stocks event at First Break Cafe, which is located in Sterling, Virginia, and is owned by Anthony Luong. Beautiful room on the second level with 9 foot diamonds that are always in pristine condition. So, and the Bob Stocks Memorial has always attracted top level pros. So that's a fantastic tournament and a big, big get for Chris Wilburn. Really proud of him for pulling that off.
Yeah, so thanks for giving us a rundown of all that, Curtis. And it sounds like there's tons of stuff to do there. So as people are kind of venturing out to that area, they can see, hey, there's a lot of stuff. I should check the calendar. And I actually have it right here. I put your Facebook profile up here.
Mhm.
I don't think we finished. We talked about some of the failed endeavors that you had.
Well,
I'll just
I
remind you
failed
that
them.
I'll just remind you, Thomas Edison failed 10,000 times to create the light bulb.
Right.
But so keep at it. But tell us some of the future plans for what you're going to do. Are you going to put together a channel, a page, something like that for folks?
I'm toying with the idea of a podcast. I'm not quite sure what it would be yet. If it'll be 100% pool related, because I do like to talk. and I'm extremely opinionated. I'm not going to mince words. I like to run my mouth whether I'm informed or not, which makes for a good podcaster. But as far as pool goes, one of the things I would like to do, and it's kind of a big dream of mine, is to have a national charter for the United States. I think there
For
should be
what?
sort of like a national charter. There should be an American championship, and it should be by state. Because even if you take the top 10 that I put together, that's 500 people, right? We know all 500 aren't going to show up for an event, but if you can have an American national champion, based on states competing against states or regions competing against regions, or you have conferences like you do the NFL, we can have an American champion. We already have a US Open, we have a US International Open. Why not have an American champion? There are so many pool players in this country. And we always are clamoring about we need pool on TV, we need to have more exposure, et cetera, et cetera. You know, it was great to have Federer on Joe Rogan podcast, but Joe, I think, celebrated the dark side of pool a little too much. But on that particular podcast, even though he's a great ambassador for the game at some level, but I really think having an American Cup or American National Championship for pool, I think it would be a great boost to the game. And I'm not quite sure how to get started with that because that's going to be like a full time job. It's going to require money, it's going to require travel, it's going to require Mount Everest levels of patience. So, being that I'm 55 years old and I'm getting tired, I don't know if I'm going to be the guy, but I
55. You look great.
thank you. It's all that Coke Zero and Cheetos, but maybe one day I'll be as skinny as you guys again. Who knows? But
Well, look, Curtis, one thing that I've learned just by doing this the last couple years is, if you follow your heart, if you follow your passion, doors open.
yes,
And, so I'd like to encourage you, if that's your
Agree.
dream, an American championship, then go after it. Start small. Each day start small. And by the time you get there, you may find out, hey, it's not going to work, or I got to go this angle.
but
There's this book.
at least I played a hand, right?
Yeah, there's this book I read, and the woman who wrote the book, it was like an inspirational book. And she said, for the longest time, I wanted to have my own coffee shop. And I wanted to just have this cute little independent coffee shop. And I thought it would be great. So I said, before I actually develop this coffee shop and create it and spend a lot of money, let me go become a barista and work in a coffee shop. So she did that for 2 months and hated it. And then she realized that, what I wanted was not to own my own coffee shop. I wanted to have the time to go and sit down in a coffee shop and enjoy coffee, right?
Right.
And so things change as you get into things, but I'd encourage you to do it. And anything that you have, any ideas you have for podcasting or whatever, reach out because we'd love to help you. We've learned a little along the way. We can obviously do better. But this is one thing I've been blessed by in this community. There's so many people that have helped us. Me and Mike.
Well, if there are
People,
ever any future topics you'd like to discuss or touch on or delve into, feel free to reach out to me. I really enjoy speaking, and I really
yeah,
enjoy speaking about pool, especially with people like yourselves who know something. And I don't shy away from controversy. I actually welcome it because I think the important thing for me is I really have no interest in who agrees with me or not. I just want to get the conversation started. Because what I do get tired of is going to a tournament and seeing five strong
Okay.
players huddled in the corner like a bunch of old hens, whispering and complaining about something when they have information to share and they don't say anything. And it's really frustrating for me, just to rant a little bit, when I know of champion level pool players who say nothing online. They
yeah,
never type a word. And these are people that other people would love to hear from them. And that really bothers me. So it's like, why are you hoarding the information? You're never going to be at a Shane Van Boning level. So what are you keeping it for? You don't even gamble anymore. You have no secrets. How about you share something? Because the young people,
I
the
like
young
this
people
guy.
coming up,
Oh,
the young
yeah.
people coming up want to know, and they want to know what to avoid. You have this mentality where I went through the school of hard knocks, so they should too. There's some truth to that, but how about paving the way so you can skip some of these hurdles and go do bigger, better things earlier and faster? So that's
yeah,
just my little rant. I think there are too many good players out here that are silent, and they're voluntarily silent, and I resent them for it. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it.
Well, in some way, I think that silence is, some of them have been scorned. In some ways, they've been hurt by a really difficult industry, and I think in other cases, there's a certain barrier to entry, a certain skill set that even if it's just perceived, that I could never get online and have the presence that Fedor Gorst has, or I could never share information in a video or a post or show a drill. I think there's a lot of reluctance to that. And, it's missing a huge opportunity. I had a reel up yesterday and I was talking about like anybody in the industry, if you wanted to do something, get out there and do it. Because that's if we get in front of more people that you posted that thing, you got 200 and some shares, right? And then you posted something else yesterday, and I was so mad because I already created that video. I just hadn't finished editing it yet, where it's like your pet peeves about pool. And you put that out there, and then I put my video out. And at the time we started this podcast tonight, it had like 12,000 views. It had like almost 100 shares. And so the more people, imagine if we had 100 people a day putting out content like that, and more people are seeing it, and they're like, man, I haven't played pool in 5 years. I'm going to go out and play pool again. We
But
need
it's
that.
not even. It's not. I'm not talking about the Fedders and the Billy Thorpes and the. I'm not talking about those guys. I'm talking about the guys who would a term that likes to get thrown around is semi-pro, which I still don't know what that means. I don't want to be seen by a semi-doctor. So I'm talking about the guys that have full-time jobs and play pool as a hobby, but they're very, 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 very good. Why aren't you saying anything? You don't care about sponsorship. You're not affiliated with anybody. Share some knowledge. Share
Are
some
you,
knowledge. It's not going to kill you. There's
are you
nothing that
saying
you
they're
can
needy?
tell somebody in pool that other people haven't talked about 50,000 times because there's only so much you can do with a pool ball. So, you
Yeah.
know, share
Yeah.
something. Some of these people
I,
don't even
I think it's more about creating a platform that's welcoming, right? People are scared to be putting their neck out there and having a face to
they don't want to smoke. That's
and,
all. They
and,
don't want to
and an
smoke.
opinion. Yeah,
Yeah,
but
they don't
if
want to.
if if there's an environment, I feel like that maybe that's more welcoming. Maybe they'll be more inclined to have that discussion.
Hey, is that caffeine free, Curtis?
I know,
Because it's
right?
kind of late on the East Coast.
You just
This is
hammered that
Coke.
cork zero.
It's Coke Zero. So there's nothing good
Yeah,
about it. It
yeah.
has zero everything. So that's what I delude myself into thinking.
Oh man.
It is
Hey Curtis, have
elixir
you
of the
been
gods.
following so one thing I love that you do, one of the other things I love that you do is you're an ambassador for your region, right? And so when players go to Turning Stone or Super Billiards Expo and they're kind of out of town, it's almost like in a very professional way, you're like a cheerleader for them, even though you're not coming out and saying, "Yay, blah blah." You're showing updates on this person made the third round, this person got eliminated, and you're giving everybody back home updates on local players that have taken a step up and tried to play in a
Well,
big tournament. Where'd
one of
that
the
come from?
one of the interesting byproducts of that is that with those updates, people actually assume that I'm at the event, and I'm not. you
Yeah.
know, and the reason I do it is because it's twofold. Number one, I enjoy doing it. That's the main reason. And number two, um, people want to go to one place to see everything. So they aren't going to go to the website and then go to a group and then go here and there and and compile everything. I do it so they can just go to my timeline and look at it in one spot. So, I like informing people, and it's really as simple as that. There's no real massive agenda or anything like that. I just like informing people and spreading the wealth. It's about as
Did you
simple as that.
are you following Turning Stone right now?
No.
Okay. Well, I have an update. I just saw it today. I was pretty shocked. Brandon Shuff went 2 and out.
Um, it's shocking, but no disrespect to Brandon, but Turning Stone is ridiculously tough. I mean,
Yeah.
you have the Shaws and the Van Bonings in there, Strickland's in there. You got guys like Bucky Subentong who have to struggle to get to the money. So, it's a free for all as far as whose throat's going to get slit and on what day, because that's a very, very tough tournament. And it's a winner breaks format, and jump cues are not allowed. And Mike Zuglin does not tolerate any racking nonsense. So it's definitely an old school type of tournament where, not no BS is tolerated whatsoever.
Hey, Melina, ask him the question that you asked me yesterday about who was going to win it. Do you remember that question?
About
Fedor,
who?
like basically you could
Oh,
take Fedor.
would you take Federer or Jason or the field? So in other words, you got Federer and Jason versus the field.
Oh, I'm gonna have to go with Federer or Jason, or Federer and Jason.
Well, you
And
get both. You get both. Yeah.
Well,
I don't know.
I'm gonna go with the two of them. Yeah,
But I
You're
would.
going to go with what?
I'll go with Federer and Jason.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Jason's through to the fourth round, it looks like. Looking at this now.
So wait,
Yeah.
is no one going to talk about the fact that Mike Molina's in Texas and he's wearing a Yankees hat?
Let's talk about that.
Listen, man, I was born in '86, right? I grew up in Yankees glory, right? And watching championships and World Series rings, and it just stuck, you know. And then at the same time, you know, my grandfather was a diehard Astros fan, so it caused a lot of issues growing up. But I miss my Wello, and yeah, I love watching baseball, man.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, I started playing pool in '86, so don't feel bad.
Hey, a couple interesting results here I just want to share with you guys before we go off air. Naoki Oi over John Mora, 9-8. Hill. The other grouping there that is going to come into this is Vitali against Tom Zippler. Vitali won 9-8. Curtis, tell us about Tom Zippler. He's a local guy from Maryland, right?
Yes, he's a local guy, and he and I used to rob a little local tournament up at a little bar in Essex, Maryland called Sylvester's Saloon that was run by a great guy by the name of Kevin Krause, who goes by DJ Rain. It was a little $20 tournament, and Tom and I would split first. Tom's such a thief, I swear. But no, Tom's a great player, and he plays great one pocket too. I remember when they had the one pocket event at the Expo a few years ago, he finished second to Darren Appleton. Hope he's doing well. Yeah, Tom is a phenomenal player, and he's definitely he's the top 3 or top 4 in the state of Maryland right now from a Fargo standpoint. He's always a threat to win an event that he's in.
Kevin West, who I was going to take as my dark horse pick, but I forgot and I took somebody else. But Kevin West advances to the 4th round, and he plays Frankie Hernandez, who knocked off Dylan Spohr. He's from Pennsylvania, right, Dylan?
Yeah, but the interesting thing about Kevin, well, there's a lot of interesting things about Kevin, and I know you did a podcast with him recently, but Kevin always does really well at Turning Stone. And as a matter of fact, the 3 times that I went was just to hang out with him and support him. And, you know, Fleming was up there too, and Zippler was up there. So it was a little bit of a local boys hangout for the few days. But we all know Kevin. Everybody loves him. He plays phenomenal pool, gentleman of the game, etc. But he always shines at Turning Stone. He really loves. I think Turning Stone is his favorite event.
Yeah, I had a great conversation with Kevin on the podcast, and one of the things that was so interesting is talking to him about his diabetes and how that can really affect him.
Yes.
You know, he can go into Saturday playing great, and then his sugar gets off on Sunday, and everything changes. And he actually he lost to Jason Shaw in the finals of that big tournament. I think it might have been Ocean State.
I think that was the tournament where he fractured his ankle.
Yes, because he said his numbers got off, and that's when he ended up breaking his ankle or whatever, and had to limp around the table and gave Jason Shaw a run for his money in that event.
Well, just to talk a little bit about Kevin, and I hope he doesn't mind, but I've known Kevin for a minute, and one of the things that I admire about him is that given what he does for a living and where he lives, to be able to play pool at the level that he does is admirable, simply because he doesn't have anybody to play with. Okay, he has a table at home, and he puts in 3 to 4 hours every day by himself. There used to be a great pool room up there called Break Time Billiards in Salisbury that has long since closed. So anywhere that he wants to play, he has to drive. And as you know, he's a chicken farmer, and there's no vacation from that job. So, you know, what's admirable about him is his dedication, discipline, and consistency. And that's really something to be admired, especially given his physical limitations. Because I can guarantee you, if Kevin was not a type 1 diabetic, which is the bad kind, he would be traveling all over the world playing competitive pool if he could.
Incredibly talented guy. And, a lot of people, I get what you're saying, Curtis, but just to explain it to Melina and some of the other people out there, it's hard to explain how Maryland and Delaware are kind of broken up, but you got the Chesapeake Bay cutting right up in the middle. And
Yeah.
anything on that eastern shore, it might as well be Kentucky, or that far away, because you don't really kind of get over there that often unless you're going down the ocean, hon, like we say in Maryland. If you're going
Yeah.
down the ocean, hon, then you go over to the eastern shore. But otherwise, you don't. So Kevin's probably got a good 2-hour drive if he wants to go someplace to play, and he's really isolated over there. And it's amazing that he's been able to maintain the level of play that he has
Well, not
over the
only,
years.
yeah, and we were talking about money earlier. He's the guy. He won't cross that bridge unless it's a tournament he really wants to play in, because you're looking at travel time, you're looking at hotel, and he's got to crack the top three to walk away with a profit. Now, he may not care about the money. He loves the competition because he's got it like that, because he worked for every penny that he has. But that's another example of, the tournament's got to pay a little something for him to consider that money would be a motivational factor. So he's not even in it for the money. He doesn't
Yeah.
he doesn't really care about it too much. He just
Yeah.
loves the game, has a passion for the game, and loves to compete at the highest levels. So
All right. Well, we've been on for almost an hour. I'm going to leave you with this question, Curtis, and
mhm,
put you on the spot here.
please do.
One of my dreams, when I got started doing this, was growing the sport, figuring out a way to get us back to TV or back to some kind of prominence, some kind of, out of the back rooms and, into mainstream America. I always said it's crazy that you can have Sky Woodward walk through a league night in Wisconsin somewhere and nobody recognize him, which that would happen, right? Maybe not so much with Moscone Cup exposure now, but that could happen. He could go through a pool room with 75 people in it and they not know who Shane Van Boening or Sky Woodward is. And it's kind of crazy. It wouldn't be the same for any other sport. And so if you could kind of put your finger on some suggestions or something that you think we need to do to really change this game, what would you go with?
I would go with two things. The first thing is we need more women to play. And at the risk of being accused of being sexist, we know that everyone loves watching women do anything if they're good at it. So sorry, Megan Rapinoe, but Um, so look at Jeanette Lee. Look at what she's done. All right. I mean, Alison Fisher, all this Jennifer Beretta, all the super strong superstars of female pool. We need them back. And then number two, we need to have people competing at a game that the whole country knows. So while rotation is great for the purist, everybody who doesn't really know pool understands solids and stripes.
Yes.
So,
Eight
so
ball.
now
My favorite.
a lot of people can't stand eight ball, but I think if you want to draw people in and get pool back on TV, you have to suck it up. Everyone talks about, oh, Earl Strickland puts butts in the sheets because he's the John McEnroe of pool. We need colorful characters like Keith McCready when he was playing in his heyday, etc. That only goes so far. But if you want to have people that are not into pool embrace pool or even be interested, have the people compete with a game that they can readily understand and then grow from there. Because we were on TV for a while back in the day, and then it kind of tapered off. Now, we could go the other way, right? And we could just be kind of like in your face with it, where just start showing Sky Sports, just start showing stuff on DAZN on TV, and just adopt it, take the hit financially, and see if it catches. That way, you wouldn't have to worry about educating people. Either they like it or not, and they embrace it or not. And I say that as a person who is not at all entrepreneurial, but the ladies have to get back into it, and we have to play a game that people appreciate, which of course not appreciate, but which people recognize. So that's
Yeah.
of course going to leave out one pocket, and it's going to leave out straight pool. Those are not TV friendly games, but eight ball absolutely, definitely, I think would be a good start. And it
Well,
pains
you're
me to
not.
say because it's my least favorite game. I mean, one pocket is at the top of my list, followed by nine ball and 10 ball, and then eight ball if I have to. But if you want people to watch pool, I think eight ball would be a good choice.
Well, while you're not entrepreneurial, Molina Mike is. So he's going out tonight and patenting the 8 ball spelled out, period.
Kind of like Matchroom.
Yeah.
Okay.
Don't tell Matchroom.
Yeah.
Molina, you got anything for Curtis before we let him go?
No, I like it. There's a lot of interesting conversations, and we'd love to have you back on. You know,
Okay.
I like a healthy debate and a well spoken guy behind there, and I don't really get that a lot around here. So, no, but you're listen, man. Keep on following your passions, and it's great to see that people just receive it and welcome it for better or worse. You know, because you're not always going to be able to please everyone, but if it comes from a good
True.
spot and looks like it does, and it's sincere, keep it going, man.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. I really want to thank you guys for what you do as well, because I know you guys had some great podcasts earlier, especially with Mike Davis. Sean Wilkie was a fantastic one.
Thank you.
Kevin West. There are a lot of great people out there that play this game, and I think we need to really let people learn about them and put them on the map. This stuff about being under the radar and being undercover, and there are no road agents anymore. Those days are over.
That ship
So
has sailed.
yeah, yeah. So people just need to accept that fact and just embrace the technology and leverage it. So
Awesome. Well, hey, real quick, I forgot to mention that when we get 20 more people to sign up on our Patreon, it's
Oh, we got a couple already, Joe. We got
yeah, we did. I was just going to call them out.
Lomax
Brian Kingsley, and Ben Angeles. They both signed up for our Patreon,
Oh,
and
Paco
then
upped it too.
Paco juiced it up, man. He went up to a higher tier, and so when
Yeah.
we get 20, so we need we'll call it 17 more to sign up for our Patreon. I'm giving away this bad boy.
Don't mess it up, man. Don't hit it.
Nice.
It's a Steve Lomax jump cue. You guys are gonna want this, so we're gonna razz it or raffle it off to one of our Patreon supporters. So
And full disclosure, now a paid subscriber to Pool Player Podcast. So
awesome! I got to figure out how to get more content up there because we were doing the Patreon thing. Now I got to go back to that.
Yeah.
So I'll figure it out. Don't worry,
Okay.
Curtis. Curtis, thanks so much. Really appreciate it.
Thank
Keep
you,
doing
guys.
some great work in the Mid-Atlantic there. Keep getting the stuff out. Get a page or get a channel or something like that,
Right.
so you can just continue to grow. And anything you need from us, go ahead and reach out. We'd be happy to help.
Thank you so
Definitely.
much, guys.
Awesome.
Good meeting
See
you,
you
buddy.
guys.
All right.
Thanks for
Have a
tuning
great
in,
night.
guys.